The experiential argument for God's existence, I think, is a huge one, and it's a very valid one. I mean, just if we look at this objectively, the vast majority of humanity, from the beginning of time to the present day, believes either in the existence of God, the gods, or something beyond reality. The atheist or the agnostic community are a very small percentage in actual belief around the world. Now, why is that? I think that's because our actual encounter with life, with conscience, and with reality drives us to assume intuitively that there's something.
Our sense of desire, our longings, our aesthetics, our love for beauty, for something bigger than ourselves. It's all these transcendent longings that we have. In addition, it's also people's religious experience. And so again, you look over thousands of years of history and millions of people who claim belief in God. How is that unreasonable or irrational? It doesn't seem to be. So these are all witness and testimony from our human experiences. We are, for example, finite human beings who have these great transcendent longings. How do you explain that? Longing for legacy, for beauty, for truth, for goodness.
And that's the way I think many people come to know God. I think of, for example, of my own mom, who was very, very committed to Christ, but she had no idea. She could not read or write. She had never heard of the Kalam cosmological argument, could not give any coherent argument for God's existence. But I can, for that reason, say that she did not know God. And so arguments can actually, as William Lane Craig has pointed out many times, they can actually be a distraction to our coming to know who God is.
A friend of mine once said a man with an experience is not at the mercy of a man with an argument. And that doesn't mean to say that experience in itself is totally exhaustive, but it is part of what we have. I have to account for my experiences. So let me go back again. That when I walked into this house in Scotland many years ago and was shared ideas about the existence of God, I came in completely predisposed. There was no God. In fact, I was morally repulsed by the very notion of God. So there was no experience of God, except that there had been in my childhood senses of something.
Personally, I think it's very, very important. It's hard to convey your experience to someone else, and that's why some people may be hesitant to apply this argument in their understanding. But when we talk about knowing God, a being who's there, if all we are stuck with are just arguments, philosophical arguments or arguments from science and all that, if that's all we have, we are still a step away from really knowing God, which is what God has called us to do.
I think experience is a pointer. It's not exhaustive, but it is something very significant. When you look at the great people across history, from the Apostle Paul through C.S. Lewis to people like William Wilberforce to Ravi to myself to many others, experience is a part of the reason we believe in God. It's not the sole reason, but it is a very important one.